Welcome to Put a Word on It, a podcast presented by Men of Valor. In each episode, we're going to talk with a different man, but each one with a unique journey from brokenness to freedom. I'm your host, Rudy Kalis. I spent over 40 years as a TV sportscaster, then retired and joined the Men of Valor program as a volunteer, so join the conversation. Reconciling men to God, their families, and society. Welcome back to Put a Word on It. I can't believe this is the start of our 8th year. I've got as much hair as I had at the beginning of this, but 8 years we've been doing these wonderful stories, and I hope you've enjoyed them. What we want to do is give you a compilation. These are a number of people. We've got 8 people. We're going to take little snippets of the interviews we did with them. They're some of the best that we've got. Give you a taste of their story and let you enjoy each one. We've got 8 different people. We start with Mary Gregory, a woman who lost her husband. He just got shot and killed, and yet her struggle to survive and her struggle to find faith was powerful for all of us. Take me back, because that's such a powerful thing. Your husband got out and through the Jericho Project, and he became a man of God, and you had, 5-6 months of wonderful time before the shooting?
Yeah,
Do you get angry with God?
I was.
How'd you handle that?
I don't know. I prayed about it. I still pray about it. So one day I just was like, I don't want to feel like it's no more. I was tired of being depressed. I was depressed for 10 years.
Men of Valor, good folks. They helped you with your kids, didn't they? Just to have men around, to have somebody to feed into their lives, were they helpful?
Yeah, they was real, real helpful. They was helpful in a lot of ways that I couldn't do by myself.
In a way now, you see your kids go across the stage and you got a handsome young son who's in college. I mean, it's like you can look up to heaven and say to him, we did good with God's help.
I got 2 in college.
2 in college. Did you think you could?
No. Still don't know how I did it.
What's it been like growing up with a tough mom who loves you though, but is tough?
I've been dealing with a lot, learned a lot of hard lessons, especially through the transition to high school and college. I have had a lot of tough lessons, and I thought it was always the end, but it wasn't. So
she's really, to me, an example of somebody who just would not quit.
Yeah, she really is, and that's where I get a lot of my motivation from. Stuff happens, feel a certain type of way. You just can't give up. You give up, everybody else around you gives up. So
you see an example of it, it becomes a part of you, especially when it's your mother and your own flesh.
Yeah.
I remember a story where the soldiers literally came in our house after Christmas and took my toy soldiers because my mom had bought it in the black market. Just horrible stories like that. That really grip, as a childhood. Another story is in school, preschool, when we were all gathered together, and they had all the children, all of us, put our heads down and say, okay, I want you all to pray to God to provide for you candy or something, candy that you like. So she goes, okay. So we all put our heads down and we prayed and we asked God, provide us candy. And then she waited, the teacher waited for a few minutes and she said, okay, everybody lift their heads. And we all lifted his head and she goes, what do you see? And we saw nothing. And she goes, okay, so God didn't provide for you nothing. Then she goes, okay, let's try this. Let's put your heads down and let's ask Father Fidel to provide candy for you. So we said, okay. So we all, put our heads down. We asked Father Fidel, and while we were praying, she would put the candy on every kid's desk. And she goes, okay, everybody put your heads up. And we all put our heads up. And she said, what do you see? And we were all having candy. And she said, see, God never provides, your needs. But Father Fidel will always provide what you need. Situations like that.
With that environment and Fidel, how were you able to get out of Cuba?
Well, fortunately, my mom was born in LA, so she was an American citizen. That was a huge help. Plus, there was we had a lot of relatives to godparents that were very powerful in Mexico too. So there was some kind of an agreement. It's still gray to our family to this day that the Mexico government and the Cuban government, along with, of course, the American government, to have us come here as refugees in poverty, basically. So, and we came to Miami.
Vernon, it's great to meet you. So you told me you grew up in a plantation.
I sure did.
Tell me about that. What was on it?
Cotton, soybeans, cows, horses, goats, chickens, guineas, turkeys.
And your whole family worked it? Mom and daddy both working on the farm?
just my grandfather and grandmother.
Oh.
I can remember my grandmother telling us stories about past people, that she knew that worked the plantation in the 1800s, and she was born in 1914.
Wow! But your family name is B, right? B-E-E.
That's it.
Any idea where that came from?
Well, to my knowledge, the stories that I was told, my dad said his father told him that by us being big men, they always kept the big slaves chained to posts in the barn, and they would have them lettered A, B, C, and my grandfather was the letter B, and that's how our last name derived.
You obviously got caught. How'd that happen?
When I was 19, I had been dating a lady for a couple years on and off, and we had been separated, and she called me and asked me if I would come pick her up. She had actually been living with one of my friends. Well, when I went over there to pick her up, he had beaten her up. And so we went and hung out that weekend, and she got me to take her back to get her stuff on Monday. He had called and said that all her stuff was in the yard and she needed to come and get it. So I took her over there to get it, and he had hidden his car. And when we pulled up and she got out to get her clothes, he had jerked her out and started beating her up in the front yard. Well, of course, I was a drug dealing thug, so I had a gun. I got out to stop him from beating her up. He and I wrestled over the gun. The gun went off. He got shot in the chest and later died that evening. So at 19, I had a first-degree murder charge.
Whoa.
20, I was convicted of second-degree murder, received a 25-year sentence. I had gotten some federal charges while I was out on bond. So at 20 years old, I went to Brushy Mountain with a 30-year sentence.
But you also visited other prisons, if you can call it that, right? How many did you go to?
I've been to every prison in the state of Tennessee except for CCA, and they wouldn't accept me.
An amazing thing now is just seeing the relationship that my father and I have now. And now that I have found Jesus, I didn't grow up in church. My family, we went to church for funerals and weddings. And, so we never had that to fall back on. We never had the presence of God in our house. Although he was there, it wasn't, my arms weren't open to it. My mind wasn't open to it yet. My heart wasn't open to it. And so this whole thing with Men of Valor, with Christian music has really opened my dad's heart and my mom's heart, my family's heart, to the love of God, and they're seeing these changes. And so it triggers a lot. I think it's triggering a lot of questions.
But what happened in you that got you to that point that changed you and you're now changing them?
So I'd moved down here in the fall of 2018 and for country music, and I was drinking heavily, out of control, drinking and driving a lot, still using, still taking advantage of women, and just it all just led up to so many different things. And I had a family, believe it or not, God had sent a family from Vermont a year and a half ahead of me to be down here to earn my trust, to then invite me to church in the fall, winter of 2019. And I walked in to Church of the City in Franklin, Tennessee here. And I'll never forget Chris McClarney, John Reddick were leading worship. And all of my hope is in the name of Jesus. God, turn it around. God, turn it around. God, turn it around. And I had all I could do to not fall on my knees.
Unfortunately, my family didn't take it well that I had become a Christian. None of them attended my wedding. They were angry that I was marrying a Christian girl. And sadly, for the last 30 years, I've pretty much been abandoned by my mother, my father, my brothers. My father today is dead. My brother's in prison. My other brother is on a very strong antipsychotic called Haldol for the voices in his head. And my mother, I don't know where she is to this day, but I'm still hoping in the Lord.
But it does give you a heart for understanding when these men talk about their addictions or things they haven't been able to patch up from their lives or difficulties. It gives you a sense of understanding the pain and the difficulty of trying to walk with Christ.
Yes, and I'm very well aware with that pain and that abuse and those series of unfortunate events, the deprivation that comes along with a hard background. I'm very well aware of that experience, unfortunately.
Well,
Yes.
I don't think it's unfortunate. I think, Proverbs 16:9, in his heart a man plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. So everything that's happened to you, and even that,
Yes.
even the difficulty of your background, it's almost as if the thorn in Paul's side were, no, my grace is sufficient for you.
Yes, and it's wrestling with that thorn, right? The residue of that background, that even though you love God and you're pursuing him and God uses it in incredible influential ways, you still, on an emotional human level, you're still wrestling with the residue of that type of a background. And that's that thorn. And you beg God to take it away. But like you just said so eloquently, right? The Lord said, my grace is sufficient for you. And my power is made perfect in your weakness. Not your strengths, your gifts, or your talents, but in your weakness. And so that's wonderful words to say, but it's hard to live.
Hard to live.
Yes, sir.
Alfonso, the name of the program is Put a Word on It. I don't know if there's a word that comes to your spirit that you can maybe offer us.
So a word that's always been dear to my heart in terms of my journey and how God has taken me from different purposes in my life is purpose.
Purpose.
God has a purpose and a plan for all the pain that you've processed in life. Proverbs 18:16 says that your gift will make a way for you and will lead you before great men.
That's wonderful. My favorite verse in the Bible is Ephesians 2:10. For we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good deeds he's prepared ahead of time
Amen.
for us to walk in. And your life has been remarkable.
Yes.
Oh, what a joy to meet you. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Rudy.
And you've graduated. You've gone through the program, so you've been consistent with it. Your heart has been changed. And have you reconciled with your father?
Yes, sir. We talk all the time. I'm very fortunate that we could repair that relationship. When I graduated this program, he told me the prodigal son has returned home.
Didn't you go down a trip down to Florida and you got hooked up with your dad?
Yes, sir. In May, we went down to Florida, and look, this is the way God works. It's the place we were staying was like 3 miles away from where my sister lives. And also at the same time, my dad was already down there visiting with my sister. So when I went down there, I had plenty to do. My dad got to come on a charter fishing boat with us, and we went out. I never done anything like that. He kind of goes a couple times a year, but that was something wild for me, and I'm glad I got to share it with my dad.
For him to look at his son as a father, I know how I would feel. You just warmed his heart by doing that.
Yes, sir. It was a very memorable experience. I'll never forget it.
Where were you when your dad suddenly passed away?
I was out. Thank God. I'm great. I'm so grateful. So I went to prison. I got out in 2014, March 2014. My dad died October that year. So those 6 months, I was sober for those 6 months. I got to spend time with my dad. We went on fishing trips together. Every single Sunday, I was over there. We watched the Cowboys. My dad was a Cowboys fan.
Yeah.
This was when the Rams were not the Rams, the Seahawks. Nobody could beat the Seahawks at home. Cowboys went up there. I think they won like 16 or 17 straight in Seattle, something like that, over 2 seasons. Dallas went up there and beat them. That was the Sunday. My dad died on a Monday night, I think. Tuesday morning, I went out, I got the call. And so that Sunday, before that, it's usually all of us over there, me, my brothers, my mom, my dad, everybody. That Sunday, it was just me, my dad, and my mom. And we ate steak, and we grilled salmon for the next day, and we watched the Cowboys beat the Seahawks. And then, he died the next day.
Wow.
Yeah, so those 6 months, and it's unbelievable, really, because like I said, I was in prison, right? And I'd gotten in trouble. And I was supposed to finish this program in prison and get out when I completed the program. Well, I got in trouble. And I could have gotten kicked out of the program. And looking back now, for some reason, at that time, the counselor showed me grace. And they let me stay. And they put me off for 30 days. So I was supposed to get out in February. Instead, I got out in March. But they could have kicked me out. And I wouldn't have gotten out. My dad would have died. We wouldn't have had those 6 months together. And, I would have died. He would have died with me being in prison instead of him getting to see me, for a short span. But still, he got to see me, live life.
I bet you felt from him that he had forgiven you for all that happened.
I felt that immediately every time anyway, man.
What about yourself? Could you forgive yourself for letting him down and the things you had done? Have you been able to do that?
Now, yeah, now. It took that took some doing, yeah. I know that nobody that loves me holds anything that I did against me. So that helps. I think that helps me. But there's still regret.
Sure.
Definitely still regret. It's a lot of years, a lot of wasted years.
Look at the power of everything you have learned the hard way, but you're kind of like your dad in that way. And now the way you can feed into these men, I'm so curious. We call the program Put a Word on It. I just can't wait. What's the word that's in your mind?
So my word, gratitude. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful. Because I know, man, where I could be, where I should be, really, but really where I could be, what I've done. I mean, if I got caught for everything, which people say that, but if I got caught for the things I did, definitely wouldn't be sitting right here. I'm grateful every day. And then to walk around this ridge, I love this place. They'll have to make me leave. I love this place.
No, you're not leaving. These men need you.
Yeah.
Need you so much. Man, I love spending time with you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, for sure.